I'd like to welcome you all and call the Great Barrington Affordable Housing Trust Fund meeting for Wednesday, October 13th to order. There is a statement on the agenda regarding the provisions of the open meeting law regarding the Zoom. I don't think I would need to read that to everyone. If anybody has any questions, they can contact me or the town. All votes will be roll call during our Zoom meeting. So I'll call the meeting to order. Bill Cook, Garfield Reed, John Katz, and myself, Fred Clark, are members. Shep is here as our recording secretary. We're very pleased to welcome some special guests who are all dedicated and involved in the affordable housing in South Berkshire. Karen Viali of Central Berkshire Habitat for Humanity and Aaron O'Brien of Habitat have joined us. They're going to briefly talk to us about the two projects that Habitat is fortunately doing in Great Barrington regarding our committee. That is the North Plain Road site and the 40 Grove Street property. We also have Allison Marchese from Community Development of South Berkshire, who's here, and she has a proposal for us, I believe, and wants to discuss how we can talk together. Before we get going, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 13th, May 27th, and June 23rd. Have everybody had a chance to look at them?
Yes.
So moved.
I'll second.
So do we have to take them one at a time, Bill, or all three?
I only had two. Was I missing one?
We have
May
three.
13th, May 27th, and June 23rd.
Oh, I haven't seen the June one yet.
Okay, well,
Must have missed that somehow.
you can vote present. Excuse me. I think I have somebody to admit.
Okay.
I heard it, but I don't see it. Anyway,
So I guess I should amend my motion to only include those first two, the May meetings.
okay. We have a motion by Bill Cook to accept the May 13th and May 27th meetings minutes, seconded by John Katz. Roll call vote, Bill Cook,
Aye.
John Katz,
Aye.
Garfield,
Aye.
and I vote aye, Fred. What's aye? Can I have a motion for the June 23rd meeting minutes?
So moved.
And I'll go ahead and second that. So we have any discussion. John has made the motion. I've seconded it.
I guess I'll have to abstain because I hadn't seen those.
I want to get them on the record, Bill. So
Okay.
we're
can
running
be
behind on
persuaded.
our minutes, so we just need to keep up with them. You know.
I'll vote last. If everyone else agrees.
Okay.
Okay.
Roll call vote. John Katz, please.
Yes.
Garfield.
Yes.
And myself, Fred, yes.
And
Bill Cook?
I'll go along with that. I'll say yes.
Yes, or abstain, whatever you want to do.
I'll say yes. I trust you guys to have read them, and since I didn't get a chance to, that's right.
What I put on our agenda was that we would introduce Allison Marchese of Community Development, and Allison is asked to come and talk to us about some of the initiatives that they're doing and how we might be able to work together. So Allison, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being included. And so I guess I can recap a couple of things just to bring everyone into the discussion. I guess a couple months ago, Bill and I had some back and forth emails. We met for coffee in the summer, and then we had some ideas about how we might work together. And I think this meeting together is a result of our back and forth and maybe just bringing it to a larger group so that we can have a larger discussion. And some of the things that Bill and I talked about was, first of all, Bill and I hadn't met, so we were getting to know each other's work. And so Bill was very gracious in explaining to me how the Housing Trust works and the kinds of superpowers that you have. And I, in return, talked a little bit about what the CDCSB is doing and how we were working. So that gave us a good introduction to each other. And I can bring other people in this group up to date a little bit about what the CDCSB is doing. So most recently, everyone knows that we opened Bentley Apartments on Bentley Avenue in Great Barrington. This was back in May, and we fully leased up Bentley Apartments in August. And so we have a fully remediated site, a park on that same site on the Housatonic that's under development. And I'll speak about the remaining 2 acres in a minute. And we also are at the very close to 4 weeks or so away from closing on Windrush Commons, formerly known as 910 South Main Street, which is a new 49-unit affordable housing rental complex that is going to start construction, I hope, as early as December.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're super excited about that. We actually received our funding notification and almost 10 months ago. And so because of the backup at DHCD and all of the pieces of the funding, we were waiting a lot to get to the closing. So now we're going to close and start construction. We'll be in construction for 16 months. And that Windrush Commons will open in the early spring of 2023. So that's sort of where we're at with our projects. But what Bill and I had a fun conversation about was more about how could we think creatively about home ownership, which is not something that the CDCSB has really gotten to do yet. And for one of the reasons is that the DHCD hasn't had any funds to do home ownership, but mostly supportive rental. Hold on one second. My phone is ringing. Hold on. Okay, sorry. And so what Bill and I chatted about was sort of a creative point of view about home ownership. And once I learned that the Affordable Housing Trust has the capability of doing down payments, we started to explore the newest of new projects that we are looking at, and that is creating an affordable housing complex on the remaining 2 acres at 100 Bridge Street to complete that redevelopment project there. Right now, if you drive down Bridge Street, you'll see that sidewalks are going in. The town is working on the sidewalks, and then there's still this construction site within the borders of a fence. And that's the area that we are planning to develop into affordable housing. And so Bill and I talked about what would it, sort of creatively, what would it look like if we were to do home ownership as well as rentals on that parcel. And that's kind of, Bill, jump in here because you and I have been chatting, but that's kind of where we landed. And then we kind of went down the road of funding. And then Bill and I had a nice meeting with Berkshire Bank Foundation President Lori Gazzillo Kiley to talk a little bit about what the needs for funding were for affordable housing. And we discussed potentially how we might approach the town of Great Barrington for the CPA funds. So that's kind of where we were talking. And then, soon into this, we thought, wouldn't it be great to bring everybody else into the conversation? And those are the things that we talked about and how we might work together. I'm sorry, did you guys hear any of that?
Yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we heard it all.
Okay,
Uh,
hold on one more second. Sorry. So that's kind of where that's where we landed.
Yeah, well, you were talking about sort of smaller homes, and I don't know if you're thinking tiny house, small, but smaller houses anyhow, that with a down payment assistance would become affordable.
Yeah,
sort
and we were thinking micro homes because it's kind of a broader term, but the 600 square feet, we've heard a lot from businesses in town about workforce housing, the struggle of finding places for people to rent or buy. So yeah, micro homes on a portion of those 2.3 acres that we have. And as a matter of fact, I've had 2 preliminary meetings with people, with banks who would step up to the plate as far as creating the mortgages for those affordable homes.
So these are home ownership opportunities,
Correct.
basically, with the land in common, or sort of on a condo model, or something like that.
We don't have a plan in place yet, Fred, as far as design or management, but realistically, we can only do ground leases on that property. So clearly, home ownership would require an agreement on the land lease. But I'm not an expert in that, so I would leave that to our potential partners. And currently, we're having discussions with Berkshire Housing Development Corporation. Since they were partnered with us on Bentley, they know the ins and outs of that property, and so we're having preliminary talks with them about working on this together.
Yeah,
And
it's
what sort of-
similar to what's in what went on in Forest Row, where the
Sure.
property is owned by the group that owns the Berkshire Land
Organization.
Conservancy, something like that. Yeah, and but the individual houses you own. So I think that's a long-term lease arrangement with the Berkshire Housing.
But what kind of density? I mean, are you looking at like townhouse type of density, or apartment kind of density, more like Bentley looks like, or more like?
No, it definitely won't be Bentley Part 2. That is not happening. I think because of way Bridge Street faces other houses, directly facing the road, we want to fit the contours and the neighborhood flavor and create a community there. We don't want to create another high rise or anything like that. So like I said, we've tossed around some designs, but believe me, there aren't any hard and fast designs on the table right now. Most importantly, we're just looking at an opportunity to talk with the neighbors in the new year, get some input from the community. We've had one or two, I've had a brief conversation. Bill was with me with Chris Rumble just to get an idea of what's the temperature for something like this, so we're really baby steps toward this right
That's
now.
fabulous.
Yeah.
We absolutely are very interested and would love to be able to partner or to support you in any way that we can, albeit with the issue that we don't have an infinite amount of funds, we don't have a great spigot to turn on, and we have the public accountability, but I guess we all do.
Yeah, I think our greatest contribution would be in down payment assistance for the home ownership piece of it.
And Carolyn and Aaron, this is something that might a program that you might be able to take advantage of too. I don't know if you're familiar with the Housing Trust's down payment assistance program. Right now, it's structured as a 0 interest loan that you'd never have to pay back until you sell the house, up to $25,000 and up to 100% area mean income. So presumably when Habitat finds their owners as well, many of them may qualify for this as well, and it may help to bridge the affordability gap to get people into homes. So it's something that you may be able to take advantage of as well. The Bentley site is right around the corner from your the Grove Street property that Habitat submitted an RFP on, and is in the well, we haven't closed on the property yet, but we're in
I'll
the
be right back.
process of working on it. So you're right in the same neighborhood. It's a great residential neighborhood. It's walking distance to town. It's really, it fits the master plan for the town. Ideally, it's developing a former hazardous site and remediating it. And it sounds really fabulous. It's so much needed.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to mention is that our real intention here, a very conscious intention, is to create a community there. So whatever we develop on the 2 acres will work with Bentley and the park so that we can create a sense of community. We're trying to form internal green space there so that the green space from Bentley would face the green space from the new development and then face the green space from the park. So, you know, we want to make this work together rather than separate entities. So,
Well, it's terrific.
well, thanks for that.
Allison, it would have to be done through ground leases?
Yeah, that's correct, John. We have an arrangement with Bentley. Bentley leases the apartment buildings lease the land from us. And so
Yeah.
we would have to do the same with the home ownership. I personally don't know how that would fall out, you know, but I would go to, like I said, I would defer to the experts on how we could arrange that ground lease to individual homeowners. And I think because you can do up to $25,000 for down payments, we would hope to stay well within, we want to keep these prices affordable and for local folks who need a place to live. So
Are you
go ahead,
speaking about actual building homes, your individual homes, or you're not quite sure? You said maybe tiny houses, or you're looking at duplexes, or you're just not quite sure yet?
we are not married to one concept or another yet. I think right now what our focus is the pre-development funds for that, getting the site into the place where it can be in the pipeline for funding. So right now, the design and the actual layout, I want to speak to the neighbors first, because I'm sure you're all very aware of the sensitivity of doing more work there. And I want to have an opportunity to have a forum with the neighbors to understand what they think, and before we put any concrete design on this. But conceptually, the plan would be to have affordable housing rental. Perhaps that would be the kind of a townhouse style that faces 100 Bridge. And then in the interior, have a series of micro homes, whether, the word tiny house brings to mind, something on wheels. We would definitely not be doing anything on wheels because that constitutes motorhome or a temporary, so there's rules around that. So we're still exploring it, but the idea would be to offer some element of home ownership along with rentals.
Do you have, you said Windrush is likely for occupancy in the spring of 2023. How does this fall in your schedule? I know you're really, really preliminary, but are you thinking beyond that, or behind that, or in front of that, I guess?
Clearly beyond that, because the funding rounds dictate to us how that will work. So if we get into the 2022 funding round, it's likely, and it's historically, people don't get funded in the first try. And then often there's a mini round that occurs, which is what happened at Windrush. We didn't get the money the first time, but we went into a mini round. So it really is going to go with the flow of the funding, Fred. So I would be delighted, and maybe because things are getting more expedited, and Carolyn, you probably could speak to this as well. We understand sort of anecdotally that things are getting moved faster, but in reality, I don't know if that's true. So it all depends on the funding rounds. It really, really does. I think we could be ready with our plans and designs and our pre-development package, but whether the funding, it's all depending upon how competitive we are with other projects that come along. So
Well,
hard to
the only
say.
reason I'm asking is, to get an idea of when we might be required, we would be able to provide some down payment assistance.
I would say in the 2023, 24 would be more realistic.
Okay.
I think we might might approach the CPC this year for another 100,000 just to bolster our fund a little bit.
That's
And
on our
mention-
agenda, yes.
Yeah, mention that's coming. So
We'll talk about that later, okay?
yeah,
Does anybody have any other questions for Allison?
I do. I don't know what a ground lease is. What's a ground lease?
So in my limited knowledge, the ground lease means that the property at Bridge Street, that 8.2 acre parcel that we remediated from a brownfield, is perpetually owned by the CDCSB. It's nothing we can actually sell, although we can develop it. So what we would do for homeowners, they would lease, basically they're leasing the land underneath their home rather than owning that land under their home. And that may be similar to like an HOA where they pay a fee, monthly fee, and then they get services attached to that, like snow removal and lighting, particular amenities or some kind of services. That may be how we can manage that. But I honestly would defer to Eileen Peltier at Berkshire Housing Development, who is an expert on these management pieces. So
I have another question, if I
you
could.
bet.
The property we're speaking of is a property that looks like it's kind of undeveloped right now and full of weeds. This is what we're talking about?
yes.
I can say that it wasn't full of weeds, but what happened there was because of that area was it was under construction. We did hydroseed it this summer to keep the soil from moving around. So those weeds actually served a function to secure the soil so that there wasn't any kind of airborne anything. And it created a little bit more security. That was a requirement by the DEP. We didn't have to hydroseed, but we did. We did it anyway at our own expense. So I think people misinterpret the quote weeds that are there. I know the fence line is being pulled apart. I know it's a little difficult to get the word out on that, but now that that's been hydroseeded, that just helps us keep and maintain the soil.
Please leave your name and your number, and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. Thank you for calling.
Well, thank you. I'd like to bring Carolyn in and talk about some of our other projects there. I think that, Allison, I'm so grateful that you reached out to Bill and to the town. And I've said it before, in many communities across the state, the Affordable Housing Trust of the town is the only game in town. We are so fortunate to have you, to have Construct, to have Habitat working on affordable housing and making great partners here. And we don't want to compete with you. We want to complement you. June Wolf of Construct explained to us that because there's so many different funding sources, all with reporting issues, you can't really do one or two family housing because of that in a lot of projects. And I think that's one of the places that we've tried to fill in the gaps, is look at home ownership with smaller size units if we can, but
Well, thank you for having me. I'm not sure if you want me to stick around or if you're going to move to your next agenda item.
I think that's
you-
up to you.
it's up to you. You're welcome to stay. It's a public meeting, and we're happy to have you. But I think we are going to come in, and what I'd like to do is have a dialogue with Carolyn and Aaron about the 2 habitat sites that were awarded through for RFP proposals. That is the North Plain Road site, on North Plain Road, Route 41, and the 40 Grove Street, which is a single family house down near the same neighborhood that you were talking about.
Well, Fred, I think I'm going to say goodnight and thank you. And it was great to see all of you, and Carolyn and Aaron, good luck with your project. And I hope to hear more about that. And I'll be in touch, Bill, and I hope we can have coffee again.
Allison, before you leave,
Yes, Garfield.
thank you. I don't know if it's relevant or not, but I have this thought in my head that when you build what we're ever going to build in that spot, for some reason, I just feel like people are going to say, well, how come you didn't do that down at Bentley? Or how do we know that the ground is safe? I just can see a lot of questions still coming up and wondering, well, how come you didn't do that with the rest of the property? Or why didn't that happen? Something, I don't know. That just comes into my head, and I just think people are like that. They'll be like that. Well, how come I couldn't have that? Or why didn't you do that for us? Or whatever.
Yes, I'm not sure I can answer why didn't it happen then, but I can, speak to the other questions about the safety of the site and how remediation works and how those, how we are answering to the DEP, and, an open forum with the neighbors is an
Great.
opportunity to really educate everyone and hear their concerns. So I do hope in the new year we can arrange, a pretty good Zoom opportunity, or a couple of them, to bring in people who have questions. And that will be, myself, our LSP, who are the people who help us oversee the remediation, the scientists, and also, if Berkshire Housing becomes our partner, we bring them in too. So I think if we create a panel and we're able to answer as many questions as possible, that might, ease people's concerns and feel good about it, so.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I hope so. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great night. Thank you. Bye.
I'd like to move on to the North Plain Road and 40 Grove Street. And I have some, I think, good news. As you may know, our 40 Grove Street site, the first step that we have is to bring water, sewer, to develop site drainage, and to look at some of the infrastructure and roads and things like that. And towards that end, the town is engaged. We gave a grant for a first phase of engineering money and for site survey money, which I believe is just started. And we heard through the grapevine that we're likely to be awarded this week the engineering money to develop all of the engineering planning documents, all of the required documents for the site,
great.
which is under the MassWorks program. It's not official yet, but we've been told through some contacts that it's most likely. So
That's good.
Thanks, Fred. We're super excited about it because they did start doing some work and some preliminary surveying last week. And this timing of it could not be better, because then they can just jump right into the next phases of it. And they've already highlighted that scope of work for Chris and worked with Chris on that application. So that's exciting that we'll be able to move forward on that. And that is really the basis for the next phase, which is the infrastructure. And then also the how the houses will be on the land. And, these two critical pieces make it so we can move on to the next one. So that's super exciting news. I'm really glad that it came in early October, because at one point we were thinking we weren't going to hear till November. And so this is super excellent news. And I think you may have said Grove Street, Fred, but we're really talking about North Plain Road.
Yes, North Plain Road.
Yeah.
So super good news. We're moving straight ahead with the engineering for the and the planning. I think, Carolyn, we're going to ask what your time frame and schedule is in terms of engaging the neighbors and looking at some concepts, at least to get there. I just want to point out that, this is the engineering money, but we need to go back to MassWorks. There was always a second phase that they broke our project into, and that's for the construction money. So MassWorks will likely, since this is considered a priority grant that fits all of the, tickles all of the boxes for affordable housing in a desirable community, and Great Barrington has taken the steps to be what did I say? It was a recognized housing community by taking all the steps that we've done in terms of revising our planning codes and things like that. Anyway, what I'm saying is that we have another application that we have to fill. And so we need to set that date and back up from there and say, can we meet that deadline so that a year from now, we are being awarded the construction money for the infrastructure. And hopefully by 22, maybe I'm being optimistic, maybe by 23, we can be in the ground. We can start working on the roads and the sewers and things like that.
That's our hope as well, Fred. And so we've already been engaging with some of the neighbors. Erin is on the Housatonic Facebook page, so she's able to see what's going on. And we've been fielding a lot of calls regarding water. And so she's learning a lot about water systems, and we already had planned in all of the homes that we're building that we're going to put in a water infiltration system in each house, so that some of the problems that we're hearing about from neighbors won't be quite a problem for our folks. But I'm kind of interested in thinking about what could be a bigger solution, but I don't really know the whole scope of what the problem is. So I'm hoping some of the engineering will.
When you're talking about water infiltration, that sounds like drainage, runoff.
No, filtration.
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 Yeah, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
It's a big problem. It's a lot bigger than this site that.
But I think Erin is going to be an expert in it in a year or so. Because she fields a lot of calls about it.
Yes, I wonder if it would be cheaper or easier to put in some sort of central filtering area.
Or a well.
I think,
well is dicey.
one of the things Brett White will be, in the work that they're doing, they come up with those kind of alternatives and they give us the information on that. So our next phase, as soon as he can give us how we're going to be able to lay the houses out, we are going to be hosting, we were hoping that we'd actually be able to be doing in-person stuff right now. So we're going to just set up like Zoom, quote unquote, coffees, where people can check in with Erin, see what's going on, looking at possible designs. And we are already talking to some contractors that are interested in working with us on a couple of different phases of it. And we've already started looking at electricians and all of that, because we know that those are really hard to come by in Great Barrington, anywhere, but it's specifically right now, it's just hard to come by any tradesmen at all. So we want to get those people lined up well before we even have the houses under construction. But we'll be doing our usual community engagement work, beyond just the monthly calls and stuff as soon as we can be back in public. We had wanted to do something on the ground, like a groundbreaking or at least a walk the land with us kind of thing. But with the COVID numbers rising, that's kind of made it a little bit more challenging. But we're hoping springtime, the numbers will be back down. There'll be lots of people vaccinated and we'll all be able to be in person, even if it's just outside.
Yeah.
And then Erin, one of the reasons that we brought Erin on is she is a master of deadlines and details. So she will be the one who's working through all of those deadline schedules and kind of presenting you with what we think it is. And then our construction system will also let us know how we're doing towards those target dates. And if there's any critical pathways that are blocking it, you know, we'll be able to identify it early enough to be able to say, what other things do we need to do to get this moving? Or so we may be we'll be sharing all of that with you. And then also if you see anything when we present it that you know from a town's perspective, like, hey, this is going to take less or longer than what you guys are thinking, you can let us know and that we'll be able to adjust it in the system.
Okay.
So,
I have a question.
yes, Garfield.
Where is the water coming from for this area? I can just see a problem if our water at this new place is cleaner than the water that they're getting now in Housatonic. People are not going to be happy.
Well, my understanding is we have to tie into the Housatonic Water Company. I haven't heard anything different. We're just trying to make sure that we're just trying to build into the homes a way to make sure the water is filtered, because it does seem to be a critical issue. And I know Chris has said we could sit down and chat about it just to see if there's any other brainstorming that we can do.
Thank you.
But it sounds like it is definitely an issue for many, many families.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And we have our land development agreement pretty much nailed down. The attorneys have it, so they'll do whatever attorneys do to make things finish. And that would be the same on Grove Street as well. Chris just sent it in. We have some things that we have to look at, and then we'll be moving on with that. We want to get closed in on that so that we can start emptying it out. And we're already looking at booking some time with the exterior stuff. And we were hoping to do that before the snow flies.
Wow.
So I understand that the purchase and sale has not closed yet, and part of that was on the town's side. So sorry about that, but you know, you've been able to get in and do measurements. And do other things.
Chris has been
Yes.
very, very busy, and we appreciate all the work he's doing.
Have you thought about neighborhood engagement on that site too? I know one man has contacted me and I have his contact information, but
If you could share that with Erin, that would be great. I know that Brent Getchell, who's our construction manager, knows a lot of the folks down there. And I believe he's been talking with the fire department as a first volunteer group on site. And we will be going in and doing some visits with the neighbors and also just getting their feedback. Brent has the first floor all laid out and designed. He hopes to have the second floor laid out. So once those are done, I just thought it would be nice to share that with the neighbors and just say, hey, I mean, we already got some good recommendations about French drains. So the neighbors are super active and super helpful and letting us know, you know, what it looks like all year round, not just in the times that we've been there and seeing it. So
it's a delightful little house on a great
Yeah.
street, you know, next to a park and all that stuff.
I heard the park is being done over. There's some improvements happening with the park.
Yeah.
So that's going to be super nice.
I mean, somebody's going to have a wonderful little house there. It's really a nice property. I'm so grateful that Habitat put this project on.
We're really excited about it. And we get a lot of phone calls about that too. Everybody wants to just buy it before we do anything. We have to keep telling them that's not the way it works. But I mean,
I wish we had a dozen, you know, but
yeah, it's always interesting because when I walk through a rehab in particular, I almost always can feel like what it's going to be like when it's finished and the family. And I just feel like there's going to be families and cute little kids running around, and mom will be able to look out the kitchen window and see them playing in the park. And how awesome is that going to be? I mean, it's going to be terrific.
And as I mentioned before, keep in mind that we have a down payment assistance program that your qualified tenant or buyer may qualify for, and that may help things. And there's information on our website, and we can share that with you if and when it becomes more important.
That sounds great.
Thank you very much
No
for
problem.
your update, and we look forward to continuing to work with you, and hopefully we can bring these projects online and at least put a little finger in the dam on affordable housing.
It's going to be great.
And as we get further along, I if you heard anything from me, it's all about milestones and schedule. So that's what I'm going to be driving at as we go forward. So,
and you'll have Aaron as your point of contact. I'll probably drop in if we're still on Zoom for a visit, because I really like all of you. But Aaron is Aaron's your main go-to person, and we'll keep all of the wheels on the train.
great.
Is that a
Great.
How do we access you, Darren?
I can share my contact information. Fred has it at this point, so.
Please.
It says planner on your email, but we'll figure it out.
Yes,
Yeah. And I think in one of the documents that we sent out, we had the wrong extension. Aaron's extension is 108. So if anybody, so that number would be 442-3181 at extension 108.
actually, it's 8.
Oh, is it just 8?
Yes.
It's just 8. Okay, then it's just 8.
So that number again, please. 442.
3181 at extension 8.
I will send it out after this meeting.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, great. I would like to move along to talk about the down payment. Well, we have 2 programs that are active right now. One is the rental assistance program, and the other is the down payment assistance program. The rental assistance program keeps going. We've awarded a total of 100,000, of which Construct is the administrator. They're charging a very small administration fee. Since the beginning of the pandemic, they've made it 800 grants in the town of Great Barrington, over 800 grants in the town of Great Barrington. The average is about, I want to say off the top of my head, $800 for people who had no other ways to stay in their apartments. Many of these are in small owner occupied or small buildings where the landlords would be having difficulty if the tenant wasn't paying as well. So it's not only just the tenants, it's the small landlords that are being helped. In the beginning of the COVID pandemic, there were some monies that came out. The state had money. Berkshire Taconic Foundation had a grant. Some of those are now ending or finishing. Construct, as the administrator of this program, has taken the attitude that the money provided by the town of Great Barrington would be last money in, that they've done a lot of financial counseling with people who've looked for the money and said, hey, you're eligible for this money over here. We can help you fill out the paperwork. They've been very successful. They've worked with Berkshire Taconic Foundation and with the state to get money to people, and really have only used the money from us to bridge the gap and when there were no other sources. We'd all like to have this pandemic over. I think everybody's tired of it. but the economics of it are still continuing. And people are still not back to work, even though, it's just a crazy time. On the other hand, some of these programs are ending. So we have Construct has $25,000 of the money that we've awarded them that they have not spent yet. They give us a monthly bill and tell us how they're doing. So I guess I'm going to say stay tuned, and it's been very successful. Our committee was able to step up and provide a service for the town of Great Barrington. The select board, when Bill was on it, and now Garfield, really wanted to do something for the local community and settled on this fund that used money that we had available through CPA grants to step up. The other program that we have is the rental assistance program. We've given out several grants at this point, averaging about $16,000 each. Those are
I think that's the
monies
down
that are
payment assistance.
Yes, the down payment assistance program.
Yes.
It's a rotating, a revolving fund, so that when you sell the house, you are required to pay that back. So it comes in as a lien, basically, on your deed that you need to pay off when you sell the house, which will bring money back into us so that we can then reinvest it at that point. I would like to do a couple things tonight. One of the things that's crazy is that, and when we put this program together, we said 100%. Well, we first did 80% area mean income. We're now at 100%. We revised it to 100% area mean income. And secondly, we said no grant more than $25,000. And the third thing we said was no house more than $300,000. In the last 6 months, the housing prices have just gone skyrocketing. And it's gotten really hard to buy a house for under $300,000. If we were in North Adams or Adams, it would be a different situation. But in Great Barrington, this is the reality that we face. Bill and I have had some discussions with Chris and others about how can we adapt that program. We are not limited. The $300,000 purchase price is an administrative decision when we put the rules together. It wasn't part of our town meeting vote or a CPA application. So we have the ability to change it through a vote of this committee. I recommend that we either remove the $300,000 cap or increase it. And the reason for increasing it is we want to be able to provide down payment assistance for somebody with a 1 to 4 family unit. There was a woman recently who approached us because her building was being sold, and she wanted to see if there was any way that she could swing it. And the building had 3 or 4 units in it. And while she qualified as the owner, the purchase price with the 4 units exceeded our $300,000 cap. We originally put this in because we figured when we were looking at single family houses, the math would never work. You could never, buy a house for more than $300,000 and qualify for a mortgage and still be low income. But there are cases where if you had a multifamily house and you had mortgage support from income from the rental units, that your house could be worth more than $300,000 and you could qualify as the owner there. So I would like to, excuse me, I would like to see if we could remove the $300,000 cap as an upper limit, I think we're still covered by having 100% area mean income guidelines and a maximum grant of $25,000. So
I think we should also mention, Fred, that when you're buying a two-family house, the bank considers the income from those other units in terms of your ability to make your monthly payments.
right.
So you can really afford a much more of a house if it's a multifamily.
We want to open this program up to multifamily, to people purchasing multifamilies. There was the one house, I think Shep, you were involved with that one, down here on Park Street in Housatonic across from the Rising Pond. That was a two-family that we did provide a grant for. And that what we're looking at is going forward, what the cost of real estate is seems like it's going to shake out at. So I'd like to entertain a motion to waive or delete or whatever the $300,000 purchase cap, or we could just do it on multifamily housing. What's
I think it's worth eliminating it completely because you still have to qualify for a bank mortgage. Nobody that we're going to give money to is going to be able to afford $1 million house.
Let's hope.
So I don't think it's really that much of a concern for us in terms of affordability. They still have to be income qualified. So I move that we eliminate the upper limit on our application for down payment assistance.
Is there a second?
Fred, have we run into any instances like that yet?
Just the one that Fred was talking about.
If we can get a second, we can get a discussion. Sorry, Robert.
Well,
I will second it.
Fred,
I'll second
take
it.
your talking.
For the sake of discussion, let's just.
Correct.
Garfield is seconded. So we have run into that one situation. There was another incident where someone came forward and they were very interested in our program. They would have qualified on the basis of their income, but the three-family house that they wanted to buy was above that limit. So yes, there was one house that was turned away.
Yeah. Which is really a shame because the multifamily is a real benefit. And it is, there was always that complaint that with the deed restriction, you couldn't build wealth. But if you have a multifamily, that mortgage money is essentially building wealth for you because the other rental units are essentially paying your mortgage. So it really helps in that regard too.
I disagree about the building wealth because our program is taking money out that you don't have to pay interest on.
Mhm.
You pay it back in future dollars, which are going to be, inflated. And if you're subject to PMI, this may be able to take you over the PMI threshold, so you don't have to pay that private mortgage insurance
Mhm.
if you don't have 20% down on a house.
Yeah.
So it can save you a lot of money. And I think it does help to, basically when you buy a house, you're leveraging the other money, the bank's money with
Mhm.
your down payment. And we're just helping to create that leverage.
Yeah.
So any other discussion on the motion to delete the upper limit of $300,000 from our homeowners down payment assistance program?
What will we have a ceiling at that point? And Is this going to go over well with the CPA or whoever does the funding for us that we're removing that cap?
Well,
I don't have any idea of the answers.
I do have a little bit. We asked Chris to take a look at what we proposed to the CPA, the committee, CPC, and we did not include that cap in our original proposal. We made it strictly part of our administrative when we were putting in the regulations afterwards. I think, you know, Chris's recommendations is that we should inform the CPC that
Yes.
we've done this, but it's not something that we have to go back to town meeting or to the CPC to get a vote on.
Right.
What was your other question?
I was just concerned what the ceiling was going to be, actually. I don't think you answered that part. Did you answer that?
Well, the ceiling for the purchase price, there will be no stated ceiling. We say that we're going to limit our grants to, we'll still keep in place limiting our grants to no more than $25,000 per award, and that somebody has to be no more than 100% area mean income to qualify. I don't know how somebody could be area mean income. They would have to be the principal owner and purchase a house that's, you know, like Bill says, $1 million.
The bank wouldn't give them the loan. So it's sort of self-limiting. You have to actually have a mortgage from a bank in order to get our award, or, you know, be pre-qualified. So it's going to have to be a multifamily, because otherwise they just wouldn't qualify for the mortgage.
We're just looking at trying to go up to 400,000 or so, or 425 for a 2 or 3 family house.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. If there's no more discussion, let's have a vote on that. Roll call vote. Bill Cook,
Aye.
Garfield Reed,
Aye.
John Katz.
Now, are we voting on no limit at all?
We are
Yes.
voting on no limit at all.
Okay,
That's an affirmative.
yes.
And Fred, aye. So we'll take that off and we will inform the CPC there. The second thing is I'm gonna see if I can share my screen here.
Oh, before you do that, Fred, we should be sure when we tell the CPC that the whole point of that was to make multifamily houses more available for people.
Yes, we will do that.
Okay.
Share, he says. So if you can see that, this is the report that I put together in June for the trust fund. These are, can you see my document?
Yes.
Yes,
These are the awards that we've had, the monies that's come in and the money that's gone out. So each bold line is an award that we got primarily from the CPC
okay.
grants. The first one was administrative office funding. The general funds were unrestricted. We, you know, and on the far right, the column is the balance. The one update that I haven't done to this is for the bottom line, the Alden parcel. Subsequent to this, we which I'm now calling the North Plain Road site. It shows a balance of $14,815.50. We have encumbered that money with the engineering for the site. So we've spent that money. But as you can see, we have 25,000, a little over 25,000 remaining in our down payment assistance program. We have 6,000 in any housing purpose, which we've used for both for rental assistance and for part of the Alden parcel, North Plain Road site. And we have about 35,000 in a fund that came from fiscal year 20, down payment or rental assistance. Given that a lot of these grants have been at the maximum $25,000, this is not a lot of money remaining. And what I'd like to propose is that in the current funding, which has a, I believe, a November 2nd deadline for the first phase, that we request additional monies to be used either for any housing purpose would be my goal, basically for either the down payment or rental assistance, as we've done before. I believe that we've got a successful track record now of running these programs and that we would make a good case. I would like to propose a $100,000 request for these programs. So
Maybe go for 200,000. I don't know.
Why not go higher, Fred?
Yeah.
Let them come down.
Yes. My guess is they asked us to cut it once before and we cut it. And we could do that again. No harm in asking for a lot.
well, I think there is a harm in asking for a lot. I think it's being a little bit too, I don't know.
Well, the case I would make is that we need to start building the fund so that when the CPC housing on Bridge Street comes online, there'll be enough money to help people with down payment assistance.
And other programs, even like the Habitat program, could be
Yes.
beneficial of that.
So even though we haven't given out many funds yet, the potential is there to give out all of this money in no time. At 25,000 a whack, that's only 100,000 is only 4 units.
Well, to play devil's advocate, that money would come in the summer of 22.
Yep.
And we wouldn't be spending it until, well, actually, we could possibly be spring of 23. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't make it doesn't, I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to go all the way to 200,000.
Oh,
Why?
yeah.
Why?
Why? Yeah, why?
Doesn't
I don't
hurt
want to
to
piss
ask.
them off. I think that they're going to be negatively, they'll feel negative about it if we
Well,
we do that. Anyway, this is, with the exception of the bottom line, where we stand right now. We have about, in all of our funds, $70,000. That doesn't mean that we can spend them at will, because some of these are restricted for different purposes.
Correct.
So I'd like the committee's support, or to go ahead and prepare, to have us prepare a new application. As I said, I would recommend for any housing purpose or for the down payment / rental assistance. If we could get money for any housing purpose, which they haven't been interested in the past,
They sure haven't.
we could, what we would like to do is to do a revolving fund of acquisitions. If any property comes on the market at a reduced price. So anyway, I'm gonna stop.
That may be next year.
Um,
I think they've been willing to give us money for down payment assistance in the past. I think I would go with 150 anyhow, as an ask.
okay,
We'll see how far we can push. I don't know.
Absolutely.
so do we want to have a motion on that? Do you want to have some more discussion?
Well, I'll make a motion for the sake of discussion, I guess, that we apply to the CPC for $150,000 in for any affordable housing needs.
I'll second that.
Okay,
You don't want to go to 200, Bill.
Well, you can amend it, John. I'd be happy to second it.
No,
Huh?
I would amend it and go for 200.
All right, well, I'll second that for discussion's sake.
all right. There's a motion on the table to amend the motion. We'll take the amendment first. I guess we'll vote on the amending the motion to 200.
Yeah.
So roll call vote. I don't remember who I start with. Bill, I guess.
Yes, 200.
Yes. Garfield,
Yes, please.
John.
Yes,
Okay. And Fred, no, I guess. I don't know. I don't think it makes sense. So the new motion, the revised motion is to apply for any affordable housing purpose for $200,000. I don't know whether we just voted on it or not.
We haven't, we just voted to
Voted
accept the amendment.
So
Yeah.
there is a motion still on the table. We don't need a new motion, but we do need a new roll call vote. This motion is for any housing purpose for $200,000 for a CPC application. So roll call, Bill Cook,
Aye,
Garfield,
Aye.
John,
aye.
Fred, yes, aye. So unanimous.
great.
We'll make it 200
Mhm.
and see what they say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think if we list several things that we could potentially use it for, we would have a case for it.
I think we would too. And I think we've got a track record at this point.
Yeah,
We've established a nice track record so far.
yeah.
So
Particularly if that money comes in from MassWorks for the North Plain Road site,
Mm.
because that would we would already have leveraged some state money from that.
right,
that
that's
one,
about
so.
$70,000 that we brought in. That's going to help the town tremendously.
And if the state gives us that money to start it, they're likely to give us money to finish it.
There have been, I don't know whether there have been discussions about other programs that we can run, other ways that we can support affordable housing. Bill, you had mentioned one idea that you talked to about, and I guess you told me at one point that you talked to one or two well-heeled individuals about the possibility of supporting a specific program. Do you
Yeah.
want to report on that, or?
Well, yes, I did have some sort of casual conversations with a couple of people who've been involved with Berkshire Taconic and other things, but what they wanted to see was some real numbers. And I've been trying to make the numbers work, and with the price of a house in north of 300,000, what I wanted to do was buy a house either in foreclosure or below market value, turn it into a multifamily house, and then put a deed restriction on it and put it back on the market, only to be sold to someone who's income qualified. I haven't been able to make the numbers work yet, so I'm still working on that. I'm not quite sure how it could work. I like the theory, but
I had occasion to talk to Samantha Homeyer last week,
Uh-huh.
and she says that this will be a bubble, and at some point there's going to be a crash, and real estate prices are going to go back down a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't know if she's right or not, but you know, can't stay up there forever unless people have the income to support it.
Yeah.
Can I mention what we talked about in the subcommittee? Is that relevant yet or no? Or?
No, I'd like to hear.
Sure.
There's a lot of discussion about short-term rental, people buying up the homes and then taking them out of the possibility of having affordable homes because they're buying them. They're not being, they're not the homeowner, if you will, and they're using it to make money. Lee had proposed that we just limit that to people that are actually going to be their permanent residents, and there'll be no longer term than, I think it was 90 days, I think, for rental, and you had to be there. So we're flirting with the idea of people that were actually snowbirds, if you will, whether or not that would work. But the thought that people are buying, there's a gentleman who bought the house right across the street from me, who owns a home right around the corner on Lake Avenue. So there's a perfect example of someone taking a home off the market that could possibly be done for affordable housing and using it for short-term rental. So that's going to get in our way too if we don't have a way around it or something we can do. I don't have the answer, but I know it does seem like the 261 homes, I guess, that are available in Great Barrington or something like that.
Yeah.
That are being brought up by people that are doing short-term rentals and taking it out of people's ability to have affordable housing. So
Yeah.
that's something that we really have to look at, apparently.
Yeah. I don't know what the solution is either.
We don't either. We didn't have one yet, or
Yeah.
haven't come up with one yet. But I think Lee had some good ideas of making sure that people are going to be the people that are going to live there. In other words, you can't, as you know, you can't have a home, live there for 2 months, and then do short-term rental like that. We want someone that's going to be there.
Yeah.
She has
Hard to regulate.
she has some very good ideas. She called me on
Yeah.
So I think it's something we need to keep in mind, I guess.
it. Yeah.
We shall.
And there are a lot
I
of.
think the bottom line is that we need to help keep figuring out ways to create more supply, because I don't know what else to do
Yeah.
to relieve this problem. And, you know, we've been successful at bringing Habitat in. If we can work with Allison and her group from CDC there, or with Jane and June from Construct, any way that we can. We do need money, so, you know, if we can be successful with our CPC application, so much the better. The timeline for the CPC application just floors me, because if we were to miss this deadline or miss this goal right now, I mean, we're not going to see this money until next July.
Yeah.
If we were awarded now. But if we miss it, we're 2 years before we get any other money.
Yes.
2 more years if we miss this deadline. So I think it's absolutely critical for us to be there and put in our application.
Yes, I agree.
That is all I have. If there's anything else anyone would like to talk about.
No.
Are 2 other things. One is we're authorized for 7 members,
Yes.
and the town clerk has informed me that that the quorum goes by the number of people that we're authorized by. In other words, we need 4 people to have a quorum, even though there are only 4 current members on the board right now. So if anybody has anybody that they can reach out to, that would be very much appreciated.
Yes.
Get more membership, because I think we're doing good stuff.
We are.
I would love very much to set a regular time for a meeting. We can, have exceptions, but, and I know everybody here is very busy with other commitments, but, could we do, what is this, the second Wednesday? Try that for regular meetings and
Give it a shot.
Yeah, Wednesday's always a good day for me.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
we can start with that and see how it goes.
Second Wednesday?
I'll probably have trouble with it, but try it.
Well,
'Cause
Yeah.
I have stuff all the time now.
Just so popular.
yeah,
6:30.
6:30.
Thank you.
What would accommodate you, John? The first Wednesday or something, or third Wednesday?
Second Wednesday.
No, I understand, but John said it might give him trouble, so I was just trying to.
Is there any other issues anyone would like to talk about? Anybody from the media, anybody from citizens? Is there anybody else who's interested in talking? Say now or hold your peace.
I think what Garfield's group is working on is very important to try and put a stop to the Airbnbs that are sprouting up.
Yeah,
That's the whole point of it. And
If there's
Really
anybody
look like the
Garfield that-
sharper minds behind me when we have this meeting next, which is, I think, the 27th, but I should find out. But I would love it if some of you guys would.
I'll try and make it.
I'll try and make it. Yep.
I'll get the date for sure, but I would appreciate it.
I mean,
Okay.
if there's
Are
any
they-
way that we can help or work with that group, that would be very,
Absolutely, that's what I'm hoping for, right? So, yes.
Are they in person or are they virtual?
We're virtual.
Okay.
I think almost everything's virtual now, isn't
Uh-huh.
Wow. Yeah.
Except for the Board of Assessors, yes.
it?
No kidding.
All right.
Oh, wait, one thing. I do have one thing.
Just
You may not know or know, but I'm very much interested in working with Vivian Orlowski with the senior deferral. I know it doesn't have tons of things. She did outline the way that she thought it would be important that we are included and aware of this, and it would be great, I think, as a committee, if we could show some support to that, to the senior tax deferral.
Oh,
It's
there
been
she is.
shown, yes, that
Ah.
it does not harm towns' budgets. The average people that usually the average, just I'm ballparking, is probably what, about 2 or 3 people in the towns that will actually take advantage of it. And I think it's important for us as it allows people to stay in their homes, or seniors stay in their homes, maybe keep them from being bought as a Airbnb, and can help the citizens of Great Barrington. I would love to see us get behind it, as I think we're all
Well,
seniors.
Vivian, this is a state program, or at least the state has an enabling law that allows us to participate in it for over 65 to defer a portion of real estate taxes. Is that? Yes.
That's the way it works through the Board of Assessors, yes.
Vivian, I think you're muted.
Is muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there was state law passed more than 30 years ago, which is accessible to all towns, which enables long-term residents to apply if they qualify in terms of age limit and income cap, and also if they can manage to pay the interest rate that the town decides on. And their taxes then get deferred, and they're still on the books for the town basically as an asset, because it's not the town spending any money or giving anyone any money. It's the older people's money, their own money, but just that's being postponed in terms of payment with interest. And it's worked very successfully in a number of towns, mainly in the eastern part of the state, where until recently, when we had this big boom, the main boom was in the eastern part of the state. So some towns have a very good track record, and the finance. I've been talking to the finance committee since springtime, actually. And we've gathered a lot. I've gathered a lot of information. They've gathered some information, and a number of these towns are offering to people either over 65 or over 70, and the ones that are used the most have an affordable interest rate that's been updated, because the state law written 30 years ago had an 8% interest rate, which in today's economy is really excessive. And the idea would be for the town to be able to cover all its costs for doing this and any administrative costs. But usually, as Garfield says, it's a handful of people who apply, like the town of Norwell, which has about 11,000 people. They usually get 5 or 6 applications a year. And the town of Sudbury, which has about 19,000 people, they get about a dozen to 15 applications a year. So in a town our size, as I say, probably will just be a handful of people. But the finance committee sees the wisdom of our town offering this, but the only thing that they're hesitant about currently, as of the last meeting, is the interest rate that they would charge. And I was really heartened to hear that the Affordable Housing Trust Fund has a revolving loan fund at 0% interest with a lien on the house, because this program would also have a lien on the house, and no one could borrow over time. No one could borrow more than 50% of the value of their house. So even if the market goes down considerably, the town would be assured of being able to get their money back when the house.
Is there another program or a similar program or a version of this that has volunteer labor at a certain rate to work off? Seems to me there's a version of this where you can pick up trash for $15 an hour or something.
That is a completely different program, because that actually costs the town money, because the town then credits people for work, I believe, but there's a cap on it. The cap, I believe, comes to about $1,500 now, $1,500 a year. And the way our taxes, our property taxes are going, that doesn't pay for most people's property taxes. And also people have to be able to work. It wouldn't, one of the reasons people would resort to this type of, it's a rather extreme thing to put a lien on your house. People would resort to it often if there is, illness or a family emergency or something like that, in which case then finding time or being physically able to work is not an option. So yes, that is another program, and it's a great idea, and it can definitely help some people. And they also have a program for very low income people who can also get, I think it's about $1,000 as an actual exemption. John Katz, you would know this from the Board of Assessors, because the Board of Assessors approves applications for low income exemptions, but that actually costs the town money. This doesn't cost the town anything. It just delays their receipt of the payment. So any good word that I guess I don't know if it's still time to take that you can take a vote to endorse this if you're so inclined, or whether just as individuals to let the finance committee know that this would support the goals of the Affordable Housing Trust, because it keeps people in their homes. If those of us who are faced with huge tax bills can't pay them, well, then the resort is to sell the house. And then, as Garfield said, it could become an Airbnb, or in any case, it means that the senior then is on the market in competition for the lower cost housing. And we certainly don't need more people on the market for lower cost housing. So keeping people in their homes who've been here for a long time helps stabilize the neighborhood and keeps older people close to their friends and neighbors. So I see it as a win-win, and hope that it will get broad support, and from you folks, it would be terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think I think we do 8 to 10 a year on the Board of Assessors.
Not a lot.
Excuse me?
I didn't think that was a lot. You're talking about 8 to 10 people?
I think we do 8 to 10 people a year. We have a new town assessor now. We'll see what he wants to do.
But that's not a lot of people, would you say, John? I mean, that doesn't,
Well, it's any person who meets the requirements, the age requirements, can apply to the town assessor for some help.
isn't it only $20,000 that you can make though, which would eliminate a lot of folks.
Yes, the state law, thank you, Garfield, for pointing that out. And another anachronism in the state law is not only 8% interest that would be attached to the deferral, but that currently no one can apply for this program if their income is higher than $20,000 a year. And the Finance Committee agrees, obviously, that needs to be raised. I think their sticking point, I don't know what they're going to come up with, but their sticking point is more on the interest rate, and that's where they need encouragement to just try it, because every year, kind of like you folks assess your programs on a yearly basis, every year the select board would review the income level and the interest rate, and the select board would have the power to set that according to what's happening, with finances in general for the town and the economy as at large. So John, I don't think that the Board of Assessors, to my knowledge, has never approved a deferral for on a senior tax deferral. They may approve deferrals for hardship cases that you mentioned without the age restriction, but the senior tax deferral program in particular is just something that's on the books with the state.
Right. No, you're right. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. And I'm glad that you brought it to our attention and you're working on it.
If I may say so, I'm going to reiterate and hope that we can get behind this, or individually anyway. I can't sway you, but I think it's a great program.
Oh, yeah, I support it.
Thank you.
So would it be possible to have a motion at this stage, or I don't know, an email from the chair to the chair of the Finance Committee, just saying that, in informal discussion, this received support from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board?
Not on your
maybe.
agenda.
Hi?
It's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda, but you could convey the discussion, the results of the discussion without a vote in an informal method. Eileen, as our parliamentarian, do you have any problems with that?
Yeah, I would. I think I would.
Okay.
Hurry.
We could support it individually if we wanted to.
Great. I think John's support as an assessor would really carry a lot of weight.
Okay.
Okay.
I know the chair of the Finance Committee very well, and her husband. So I will talk to her about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Garfield, when is the next meeting of your committee of 4 or whatever it is?
I'm going to check it for sure, but I want to say it's the 25th or 27th of October. So I'll check it for sure and let you know.
Okay, you send an email to me?
For sure will. We're talking about the subcommittee, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, the subcommittee with Leo, the one Lee is on.
Yep.
Well, unless there's any additional discussion or comments, I want to thank you all for coming. And without objection, I am going to adjourn the meeting and stop the recording.